guys, hope you're well. Today we are going to be taking a look at this ZX Spectrum Plus 2, the original model. This one has an issue with its cassette deck, so this video is basically going to be a teardown of it. So let's get into it. Right now, it's part remember that you've got two ribbon cables this side, and you've got a power end for this side for the cassette deck. So we're going to very gingerly take those out. So first one to address is the power down in here. Right, okay, take that out. We're going to take the two ribbon cables out. Okay, so you can see here, you've got your main pulley here, and then you've got your auxiliary here. So we're going to have a little look at the circuit board as well while we're here, just make sure everything is a-okay, and yeah, it's looking nice and clean and tidy. Don't think we're going to need to do too much of a dust out on this one, to be honest. The only thing we're going to need to sort out is the cassette deck. Now, whoever had this last, I'm not sure exactly who that was. You can see in some areas, like down here, that it's missing a screw. And I just found that one of these up here, this one in particular, was also a little bit loose. So I've had to retighten that. I will be checking all the screws afterwards anyway, like I always do. But the first thing to do is replace this first one, and then replace this one. Well, actually no, the way we need to do it is actually take this one off first, and then we need to take this one off and then replace this one first, and then replace this one, because they both pull around the same. So if you see, you can see they both pull off the same spoolie. So this one does the main drive to the capstan, I believe, and then this one basically just pulls the center cog that pulls for the tape pulley. Okay, so let's get cracking with this. So the first issue you're going to see is that this is fine here. That's all good. The main issue you have, I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera, under here, underneath the wheel, you've got a very, very tiny little gap and a little buffer break here. Let's try and... yeah, there's a little white piece here. It's like a little brake that moves up and down, basically to stop the wheel. So we have to basically push that down to push this smaller belt out. But we'll start with the top one first. So I'll just loop him off. So we need to keep him aside because I need to know roughly how big that one is. And then we'll take the second smaller one off. So just gently put that around the pulley. See, this is the problem with cassette decks. They're never as easy as you think. Yeah, and like I said, it's got stuck on that little brake pulley, so we just need to maneuver that and try and get this around. Come on. There we go. Now he's out. Cool. Okay, now we just need to try and find the right size belts from my very, very big bag of belts. So one moment. Okay, so we've selected the belts. So if I just show my hands, so these are the replacements. You can see the size of those. And if I just show the originals, you can see how much extra stretch there is on the, especially the big belt in particular. There's a massive, massive amount of stretch. But that's okay, because now the tension should be fine and everything should be all right. So we're going to start on this small one and then work our way around. So it's exactly the same as it was before, but it's in reverse. Apologies for light. Let me see if I can get a light on this. Here we go. Is that any better? There we go. That's much, much better. Right. Okay, so let's have a little look. So we just got to hook this around that brake bit, around the top, very gently like so. Looping around the back of the wheel. Now we need to make sure this is nice and dead straight. And to make sure that that's sat down on that little wheel underneath, which it looks like it has. So we will loop that around onto the little pulley. Come on, you. Hang on, right. Let's just lay it down, shall we? Because that's going to be a lot easier. Just try and stretch out any of the kinks in the belt. Okay, so just run around a few times. There you go. Now you can see that sat nice and smoothly on there. Oh, there's no focus. Right, there we go. There's focus. So you can see that's now sat nice and smooth. Jobs are good on that one. And then we just simply need to replace this one. So this one just sits straight around the top. Keep this there. Okay, just run that through a few times. Make sure it sits nice and smooth. Now this is going to have a lot more tension on it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be all right. So just make sure that everything works the way it should do. So got the plate, yeah, that's all good. Now this is obviously going to sit out because it's not sat in the machine. There we go. So, got the plate. I'll rewind, fast forward, pause. Okay, we are all good. So I think the next thing we need to do is have a look at the other side of the machine and maybe do a little bit of cleaning and possibly take the circuit board out. And we're back with this board. Something's definitely happened down here because this plastic is very stressed on the corner. As you can see, there is a little bit of a chip out on it. So it's obviously either been dropped or something similar to that. Okay, so I think what we do is take this circuit board out. It's very simple. It's only held in with about 4 screws, something like that. Before we do that though, we need to make sure that we take this terminal out. Just put that aside a second. If we're going to do it, we may as well do it properly, right? So, just keep these aside for now. Now, the plus 2A that came out after this one is different inside. The circuit board's different. They cut down a lot on the cost of it. So these ones are generally much more desirable than the later models. Later models are better with their reliabilities, that's for sure. But they just don't seem to have the same character as the early grey models. The transformer blocks are also different as well. They're much bigger and heavier on the later generation ones because they use the same transformer for the plus 2 as they did for the plus 3. Is everyone still stuck? Oh, yes, you are. Right, out you come. Sit over top of the resistor. Lovely. Okay, so let's very gingerly and gently remove this. And I'm willing to bet that this is now in the way and it's decided that no, I don't want to move. I want to remain here. So, come on. Just a little more. No, you're not going to move. Okay. Right. One moment. We'll try and sort this out. Well, it basically turns out all I had to do was remove this metal heatsink block, which I can absolutely guarantee you is not inside of the plus 2A version. That's another way where they scrimped out. So now we can finally remove this circuit board. So just lift it out and back out. And it's not too bad underneath. Yep, that's pretty nice and tidy. Yep, it's an Amstrad board. This is it when pretty much Amstrad had bought Sinclair. And this is obviously the same kind of concept as the 464, where it's like, no, we're just going to plonk a cassette deck in so that everything's all in one, so we don't have to have additional cassette decks and stuff. It was a very smart move by Alan Sugar, I'll give you that. So we will just put that aside for a second, very gently, and I think we'll go get a little brush and sort this out. And there we go, nice and clean. I didn't want to bore you with showing you me scrubbing it for 10 minutes, because I thought that would be quite dull and undramatic. So I think we are all done with this now, so it's a case of reassembly. So we will start putting the circuit board back in where it belongs, nice and gently. We'll just sit that just in position for the moment, because we need to put this big old clunker heatsink kit back in. And yeah, that's absolutely fine. The heatsink's completely fine. There's no issues with that whatsoever. This is actually the third machine that I've taken apart today. I had two Commodore 64s earlier on that one of them was actually all right inside. It was quite nice. It was clean, and one of them unfortunately was very, very dirty and grubby under the keyboard and also under the circuit board, but it was an earlier model. Right, you're going to be a nuisance, aren't you? Okay. In that case, we will put you on this side. Now, these have got very, very funny little screws. You can see how tiny that is. Yeah, it's a very, very small screw. Now, the most important thing with ZX Spectrums like this, especially with these small screws, is that the pegs that they sit into on the bottom of the circuit boards are not very they're not very deep. So what you've got to do when you put them in is you just do them just to light tightness. Never ever do them too tight, because what will happen is you'll stress the plastic on the bottom and it'll end up leaving well, if you've ever stressed plastic, you'll see that it has a really nasty little white marker on the bottom of them, and that's exactly what happens with these. I think I've done that one ever so slightly too tight, so we're going to loosen them up because we need to realign the board and sort out the rest of them. So I think the next one to do is do one further over into the middle so that we can get this board lined up nicely. In you go. There we go. So yeah, you just want to just do these in just finger tight to start with, just so they sit in. You can see that starting to line the board up nicely now, so we're just going to carry on and do the rest of them. I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to finish off these screws, and I will be back in a second with the cassette deck. There we go, it's all sorted. Even put the little wire back in. So I think the next thing to do is put the cassette deck back on. So the best way ideally to do these is to put them up on the side here, because you've got the two ribbons, and the best thing to do is sort out the ribbon cables first. So if we just hinge that up on there and very, very gently put the ribbons in. Now, these ribbons do two different things. The one that I'm doing at the moment, I do believe, runs off over the top and does additional functions, and I'm led to believe it also may have something to do with the tape deck, but don't quote me on that. So we'll just put this second ribbon in. Okay. So it's just a case of sorting this one out now. Bear with me a second. Okay, so that is all connected now. It's a bit of a fiddly bugger, that one. So what we do is just very, very gently sit this back down. Make sure everything's sitting. As we can see now, that's not sitting that side. So we're going to have to lift this off and rejiggle until, come on. There we go. And now it's nice and flush. So let's put the screws back in. And then we get to test it to make sure that everything is running okay on it. Now, I did have this running yesterday before we've actually done the breakdown, and it was fine. But like I said, what was happening was we were getting tape errors, and yeah. So basically, when you know that the tape belts are starting to go, because you'll hear a woggle, like a wobbling noise when it's loading. This is very, very common, and like I said, the best thing to do is just replace the belts. Now, typically when you get belts, it's always important to remember that the belts you've taken off are generally quite stretched in comparison to what they should be. So you want to take in a tolerance and take an idea, especially with a machine this age, that you want to take at least like 2 or 3 mil off of that belt so that it's tightened up. I mean, if push comes to shove, if the motor is adjustable on the cassette, then you can adjust it that way to adjust the speed, just to make it step up for the amount of extra torque that it needs. I would say torque. I suppose it's an electric motor, so torque would be the right word. And yeah, so we will just carry on doing these. It's a shame about that little chip in the corner. If it wasn't for that, this would be quite a nice little little thing. It does need retro brighting on top, I'll be honest. Show you in a minute once I've put these screws in, and you can see that it is a little bit it's got a bit yellowed, which is a strange thing, because usually you would see that on something that would originally been like a creamy colour or a white. It's unusual to see it on a grey, but it's not uncommon. It does happen with things like Super Nintendos, and it happens with original PlayStations. It's quite common with those. Okay, so that is that all done. Yeah, you can see straight away. So if I flip it over, so there's the original colour. Okay. And yeah, you can see that's quite yellowed. So that might be something we might do in another video. May have a look at this cassette door, but that's not going to be for today. I'd just like to thank Big Ollie for letting me fix some of his stuff. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.